I mean, the only metrics that really matter
Mhm.
are the bottom metrics, are the conversion metrics. And I think that's just what you're going to have to really try to dig into. I think in relation to this, you're going to have to, or CMOs are going to have to really know their customers much, much better and prospects much, much better than they do now.
Mhm.
I would say a lot of businesses make a lot of assumptions. They have a lot of anecdotes. They have a lot of people that, maybe they were a customer once. So you have, an N of one, where this one person said, well, this is absolutely what it is. With moving forward, we're in an unprecedented time where companies can take transcriptions of sales calls. They can take transcriptions of support calls. They can take transcriptions of internal meetings. So taking all of that information, putting it into an AI, asking it to summarize, asking it to say, pull up what the highlights are, getting that information to see, well, what is actually happening? What are prospects actually asking about? What are they actually worried about? So I think if businesses, or the more that businesses do that and take that information, feed that to their content writers, have them create fragments out of that content and create, robust content that can be elevated or be cited by an LLM, I think that's the path that they're going to have to go. Yeah, I think that's, the opportunity for CMOs right now.
Most marketers are chasing AI visibility, but they don't realize visibility isn't the goal. The goal is eligibility, becoming the kind of source AI will actually reuse. Today's guest is going to break down the difference and what CMOs should measure when attribution gets messy. Welcome to the Enhanced AI Partners podcast, where we spotlight leaders re-engineering growth through people, process, and pragmatic AI. I'm Yohan Mejia, founder of Enhanced AI Partners. Today, we're unpacking what marketers get wrong about optimizing for AI, what actually works in practice. And my guest today is Jessica Hennessey, AEO expert and advisor, founder of Resonate Online, and the builder of Better Sites, a tool designed to help teams understand how AI interprets website content. Jessica, welcome. I'm excited to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's get started with the first segment. You said you may expand on eligibility versus visibility, and I love that frame. So, can you tell us what's the difference and why does it matter?
A lot of marketers are used to having a result or a measure of how they rank in Google. So this concept of how do I rank, where am I in the leaderboard, something along those lines, has been kind of ingrained into marketers over the last 20 years. With AI or LLM visibility, it is not as hard-coded, reliable of a measure. So if I put in a prompt today, ask it a question, I might be cited in today's answer, but I may not be cited in tomorrow's answer, or I may not be cited in the one later today. So right now, I think people or marketers have in their brain kind of this ingrained, am I visible? Am I ranking? And that just doesn't hold weight anymore. So it really, the focus needs to be on, is your content set up in a way that makes LLMs want to reference it? And I think that's kind of the best way to move forward, because it's the only thing that you can actually control and reliably measure.
And can you tell us what makes a brand eligible to show up in AI answers?
Sure. So you have to, your content needs to be written in such a way that it is easy for the LLM to remember. So going back to Google, going back to SEO, Google is indexing your entire page. So it's indexing or it's capturing all of your tags. It's capturing all of the content, just like in an encyclopedia, right? So all of that information is stored in its index. Within the LLM, it is only recording or capturing the important pieces of information that seem like it might be something it wants to remember later. So I like to kind of just talk about an LLM that they're like the village elder, right? So your village elder has experienced a lot in the world. They've seen it all. They've done it all. But if you ask them, how did you, I don't know, how did you do something? They're going to just give you the highlights, right? They're not going to remember every single detail. And that's what you have to think about with the LLM, right? So it is not going to remember everything that is on your page. It's not zeros and ones like a computer. I think people think of it that it's like a computer where there is no, you know, there's no chance of it getting it wrong. Like everything is a 0 or a 1. The LLMs really work much more like a brain where you have to give it information that is memorable, information that it can plug and play with other pieces of content that it remembers and make it so that specifically with respect to your brand, that it is associating that little piece of content with your brand. So the way that you
Yes.
write your content needs to be adjusted. It's not just about, dumping in keywords because that just, is not as relevant anymore.
And what are teams doing today that might increase visibility but doesn't really improve the eligibility at all?
So I think a lot of there is a mindset that EO is just SEO plus a little bit more. Yes, SEO does have some influence on whether you are cited within an LLM, but I don't believe it is that significant. As users are focusing on optimizing their page, they might be overly focused on the heading tags or the schema tags or, the technical piece, the technical information that lives behind the content on the page. And yes, those things are relevant, but I would say not in the way that most people think. When an LLM is looking at your site, it is not actually looking at the code within your site. It is looking at what is presented visually. It does not interact with your site. It does not expand an accordion folder it does not expand an accordion piece of content. So it really only sees what you visually see on the page. So having your schema, having your heading tags, having other pieces of code in the back does not directly impact how the LLM or whether the LLM is going to cite your content. It helps in that if you are properly using, we'll just use heading tags. If you're properly using your heading tags, then your content will be organized in such a way that is logical and makes sense. And from that visual standpoint, the LLM can flow through and understand it. But the LLM doesn't really care whether it's an H1, an H2, or an H3. Same goes for schema, right? So there's been a lot of talk about having FAQ schema on every page, right? That was kind of the rage for a little bit, like schema everywhere, FAQs everywhere. If you're implementing your FAQs and it's a question and then you have an accordion that expands the answer, the LLM is not going to see that answer, even though it's in schema, even though there's code, even though there's all that stuff behind it, unless it is visual, open, without somebody having to click on it, the LLM is not going to see that piece of information.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of people are applying the SEO tactics, thinking that is going to have a direct impact on the LLM, and it just doesn't. And for all those people, they're going to say, yes, having your site optimized for SEO does give your page maybe a little bit of a leg up over somebody else that maybe isn't as structured as well. because there is a search component that lives behind the LLM when it's generating their answers. So it is kind of pulling up, the top 30, I think was the last I saw, the top 30 results when it does a Google search or Bing search, depending on which platform that you're using. So having those things does impact it. But again, the LLM doesn't really care if you're ranked page 1 or page 30. It's going to look at the content that's on that page. So yes, you get a little bit of a leg up that, maybe you're going to be in that top 30 of results that the LLM pulls when it does a search, but it is not going to impact something that's ranked 1 versus something that ranks 30. It's going to look at the content that's actually on the page.
I mean, that's crazy to think about how, I mean, on the FAQ side, I've seen that on a lot of the pages, and I thought it was interesting that almost every product page, or at least in the bestsellers side of things, and on the blog, there was a FAQ
Mhm.
on it. Now, regarding, knowing that eligibility is the end goal here, what are the inputs that tend to raise eligibility over time? Is it more content structure, offsite mentions, reviews, PR, or all of the above?
Right. I would say if I had to prioritize what I was going to work on, I would focus on off-page, what we would traditionally call off-page SEO. So
Hmm.
you want to have a very strong PR game. You want to be going on podcasts and getting your name out there. You want to have articles written about you. You want to have
Hmm.
reviews on third-party sites. Um, the LLMs, again, they are not going to put a lot of, I'm going to say, value on what you say about yourself.
Hmm.
So again, in comparison to SEO, within SEO, you could say, I am the best SEO expert in Boston, right? And that is content that or words that you have across your site. And that is going to help you rank for best SEO expert in Boston. From an LLM standpoint, they're like, yeah, that's what you say about yourself, but is that really true? So then it's going to look at offsite. It's going to look at, be it your clutch reviews, your G2, your manifest, Upcity, all those types of third party review sites, Trustpilot, whatever you want to call it. And if those sites say, or other people are saying, you are the best SEO expert in Boston, then the LLM is going to say, okay, what you're saying is true. But in the end, for me, in my opinion, the focus should be actually off your site
Hmm.
and working with a comms team, working with PR, and getting your name out there, getting interviews, getting.
And it's funny that you mentioned, I think you mentioned G2, which is
Mhm.
the one I'm most familiar with. Slowly, the products that we've been using internally, we've been getting those G2 reviews a little bit more than we used to. It was maybe
Mhm.
once a year, if any. But now we've seen, at least at the end of last year, we saw G2 for pretty much all the products that we used. And it was interesting that they were offering, like an incentive for the team to go ahead and get that review on the G2 site. And we actually talked about it when we were like, what's the benefit of, leaving a review, and how are they actually making money? But I mean, this explains a lot of that external
Yeah,
validation that not only helps with the LLM side, but also, I mean, I do those searches when I'm looking
yeah,
to use a product. I'll use
absolutely.
Trustpilot and G2 as my guide to see if the reviews actually match what the website says. Now, let's.
Actually,
Oh
if
yeah.
I can interrupt for one quick second, one of the activities that I do when I'm trying to evaluate a customer or client on kind of their likelihood of whether they're going to appear in an LLM or not is I will actually go into be it ChatGPT, Perplexity, whichever one, that you want to use. And I'll say, please summarize business ABC without using any information from their website. So it's been really eye-opening to see how the LLM actually interprets your website or actually interprets your brand without using your website. And that is, I think everybody should be doing that
Mhm.
because that is, I think, a better indicator of what the LLM is going to say about you. And, I always say, where are you getting this information from? Like I ask it to, show me the source that it's getting all this information from. That also helps that if there is something that is incorrect, that you can then, go out and, hopefully try to correct it.
Mhm.
But that's been a really helpful, I don't want to call it trick, but a really helpful trick to do is ask the LLM to describe your brand, benefits, downsides, whatever, without using any content on your primary domain.
I think that's also like a really good starting point if you don't know
Yes.
where to start. And then from there, I mean, you can even ask ChatGPT what can be done to help
Mhm.
improve that results. We're going to go try it right after this call.
Exactly.
Now, let's hit the theme directly. So, when someone says we want to optimize for AI, what do they usually get wrong first?
They usually get, I'm going to call it the content structure wrong. I know we've spoken about this previously, but there's this concept of fragile content. And fragile content is a piece of content that, when pulled out of context, cannot stand on its own.
Mhm.
So when you write for humans, there's a lot of context around what you're saying because most humans, they're not, again, they're not robots. They're not, remembering every piece of, every word that you're saying. Right. So the human brain is taking context around the words that are out there and kind of summarizing it up. So again, traditionally with SEO, when you're writing your content, you give your content writer or LLM, if you're using AI to generate your content, you're giving them a list of keywords and say, write content around these keywords. And they sprinkle the keywords in and, make sure that their H1s, H2s, and all that kind of stuff is right. But with the LLMs, they are pulling fragments of content. So when you're looking at a piece of content, let's say if I have on my content, I am the best SEO expert in Boston. If I were to take that sentence out of the context of everything else on my page, the LLM is going to have, I am the best SEO expert in Boston. That doesn't mean anything,
Mhm.
right? Outside of the context of everything else. So when you're writing your content, I like to recommend write down a list of fragments or phrases, whatever you want to call them, sentences that are full and complete and can be taken out of context and still hold their meaning.
Mhm.
So if I were to say, Jessica Hennessey is an SEO expert in Boston, and that's a sentence, the LLM can pull that piece of sentence or pull that piece of content out and store it and say, okay, well, I know Jessica is an SEO expert in Boston. And then it's going to go to all the other, sites that I was talking about. And it's going to say, all right, well, Jessica says she's this. Does G2 agree with this? Does Clutch agree with this? Does Upcity agree with this? And if they do, then they'll say, okay, that is real. When you're writing your content, you need to be very specific around pairing your brand with the message
Mhm.
that you want to be associated with that brand. So going back to how you write your content, I like to create a list of fragments. And then again, whether you're using AI to generate your content, do whatever you need to do, or you're using a human to write your content, you say, here are the fragments. These need to stay intact. And then you can write around that. Because in the end, the LLMs are only going to remember the fragments.
Mhm.
Going back to my, village elder, they don't remember every single thing that was ever told to them. They remember the highlights.
Mhm.
So that's the way you have to write in highlights.
I see.
And it may not make the greatest the greatest storyline for a human to read, but that's
Mm-hmm.
what the LLM. So as this grows and as people start to change what they're, how they're generating their content, they're going to have to make that switch.
And, talking about that, why do most citation or visibility tracking tools usually create a false sense of certainty for, companies looking for that type of validation?
Sure, yeah. So um, LLMs are not meant to be binary. Again, if you go back to your village elder scenario, if you ask him or her a story today, they're going to say it in one way. You ask them tomorrow, they're going to say it in a different way. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
remember some things today that they're not going to remember tomorrow, and vice versa. So the LLMs are exactly the same. They are not meant to provide exact replicas of answers every time you ask the same prompt. If I ask a prompt, or if I put in a prompt and you enter in the same prompt, our
Mm-hmm.
history of all the other prompts that we've done are going to impact the results that I get. So having a citation tracking tool that, okay, you're putting in the same prompt, you're asking the same LLM, for the answer, and you're getting a response of, okay, I appeared, 8 out of 10 times. That's great. It does show directional, um, okay, like you are being cited, more often than not,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really mean anything. It's very squishy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the people that are answering it may not be your ideal customer profile. The people that are your ideal may not be getting that answer. So I think CMOs or marketers, whomever, are putting a little too much faith in that answer or in that metric. It's directional at best.
Now, your fragile content idea explains why good SEO pages can still disappear in AI answers. So, how do you define fragile content and what makes content reusable across different prompt wording
So very simply, fragile content is a piece of content that if you take out of context, you
context?
pull it out of that page, put it on a page separately, does not withhold the meaning behind it. So it becomes generic. It does not provide a lot of value in and of itself. So the way to make your content stick within the LLM is to make sure that you have pieces of content that can be um, pulled out and stand on its own without needing the rest of the context around it. It's
Mhm.
why listicles work, why data charts work,
I
because you
see.
can pull those out and, you know, these are the top 10 XYZ. This
Mhm.
is the data that we receive, right? So those types of things are something that the LLM can rely on as whole pieces of content. Even though there's, a lot of talk about LLMs and, are they smart? And, there's all this perception around, they're these great things, and they are, but they're also, I like to describe them as being lazy. So if I have a piece of content that as an LLM, they could just pull out this little fragment and it can stand on its own versus a piece of content that you have that maybe it has to think too hard to
Mhm.
apply context to it. It's going to choose mine because it doesn't want to think. It wants, you can almost think of it too as like if you're at the top of the mountain and you dump a bucket of water and it is going to find, the water is going to find the fastest path, the easiest path to get to the bottom.
Mhm.
And the LLMs are the same. They want to find the fastest, quickest, easiest path to generate an answer that it that it can generate. So by making your content, it doesn't even matter whether it's verbose or not. But if you make your content very, I don't know, fluffy, or, you're kind of beating around the bush, it isn't going to cite, it doesn't like that. It's too hard. It becomes too
Mhm.
hard for the LLM to synthesize that piece of information and store it.
And I mean, so you're talking, and I think you mentioned it, lists, tables, plain language that the LLM can pull and use as a result, source it directly, and most importantly, can stand on its own and
Mhm.
show value,
Exactly.
answering the prompt. I mean, that is a very different way on how the SEO works.
Hmm.
And that change is going to be somewhat hard for marketers, I feel like, just because, like you
100%.
mentioned, we've been doing SEO the same way for past 20 years plus, and it's worked. It's worked. It's magic. But
Mhm.
we're coming into a day and age where LLMs are becoming a little bit more important. And OpenAI just announced that they were going to be doing ads
Mhm.
inside. So, I mean, that is going to be even more important for people to do, this type of fragmentation that you were talking
Mhm.
about.
Mhm.
Now, let's go to the boardroom problem, because CMOs don't get fired for missing an insight, that get fired for not being able to explain results. So, you mentioned wanting to explore influence versus attribution, and you're right. I mean, it's a big deal for CMOs and any marketer out there, really. So, how should leaders think about influence when traditional attribution starts to break down?
So there's been so much work over the last 20 years for marketers, CMOs to get their attribution set up correctly. So there has been a pattern where you can go into your Google Analytics or whatever analytical tool that you're using, and you can say for sure, with definitive numbers, this is how much traffic you're getting from organic traffic. This is how much traffic you're getting from paid. You can go into your Google Search Console and you can say these are the exact queries that people are asking, and these are the ones that have led to more business. That does not exist right now for LLMs. I don't know that it will ever exist for
Mhm.
LLMs. I think just the nature of the way that they work makes getting to that information pretty, I'm going to say, nearly impossible. So as we move forward and we start thinking about what matters, what can be measured, going back to or looking at that influence, looking at those third party, um, the third party uh, referral sites, looking at external customer testimonials, looking at articles that are being written about you. The number moving forward or the metric moving forward is really going to be about what is the what is the public saying about you.
Mhm.
So I think there's going to be a lot more importance put on PR, digital PR, brand awareness, brand messaging. And I think that's where it's going to have to be. That's where that is where the metrics are going to have to come from.
Mhm.
So what is the visibility of this particular article? How many people is it sent to? How many people see it? How does that compare to your competitors? Are they being talked about in the market as much as you are? Do they have more customer testimonials than you do? I think that's where the metrics are going to have to come.
And in your opinion, what should a CMO report to the CEO if they can't point to a clean conversion path?
I think that's still the $1 million question that people are still asking. Right now, there is no way to calculate that middle KPI.
Mhm.
You're going to know the top. You're going to know how many people have seen an article or who's sent it. You're going to know how many testimonials you have. And then you're going to know that you've had so many sales or leads or conversions, whatever it might be at the bottom. They're not going to be able to to connect the two right now with the way things are.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we ever will unless they all change, start providing that information to us.
And in your opinion, how do you avoid vanity metrics while still showing momentum with what we have at the moment?
Right. I mean, the only metrics that really matter
Hmm.
are the bottom metrics, are the conversion metrics. And I think that's just what you're going to have to really try to dig into. I think in relation to this, you're going to have to, or CMOs are going to have to really know their customers much, much better and prospects much, much better than they do now.
Hmm.
I would say a lot of businesses make a lot of assumptions. They have a lot of anecdotes. They have a lot of people that, maybe they were a customer once. So you have, an N of one, where this one person said, well, this is absolutely what it is. With with moving forward, we're in an unprecedented time where companies can take transcriptions of sales calls. They can
Hmm.
take transcriptions of support calls. They can take transcriptions of internal meetings. So taking all of that information, putting it into an AI, asking it to summarize, asking it to say, pull out what the highlights are, getting that information to see, well, what is actually happening? What
Hmm.
are prospects actually asking about? What are they actually worried about? So I think if businesses, or the more that businesses do that and take that information, feed that to their content writers, have them create fragments out of that content and create, robust content that can be elevated, or be cited by an LLM. I think that's the path that they're going to have to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's, the opportunity for CMOs right now.
And if you had to build, a simple AI influence scoreboard, if you want to call it like that, for a growth team, what would you put on it? Being branded search lift, direct traffic trends. You mentioned conversions, pipeline source mentions, review velocity. What would you think to put in this AI influence scoreboard?
I am absolutely I would still track I would still do citation monitoring,
Hmm.
but it's not the top metric. It is a side metric to everything else. So I would still do citation tracking. I would certainly add in like a share of voice kind of concept. I would add in a number of you know, a review score. Are you 4 stars, 5 stars, like whatever the measure is that you're looking at. I would definitely look at that. Quantity of reviews, quantity of articles, backlinks. So backlinks, we haven't really talked about backlinks. Backlinks are important, but with the LLMs, you actually don't need the actual backlink. You need just the mention.
Hmm.
So having a measure that is tracking both mentions and backlinks from external sites, I think that would be a number that I would really want to look at. And then you would absolutely want to look at conversions that are coming through an LLM versus other channels. Uh, there's a lot of talk about LLMs right now, even though it is growing and it is growing at a very fast clip. The other channels are still driving more traffic and more conversions right now. So don't put all of your measures into AI or LLMs. You still need to look at the entire spectrum.
Yeah, 100%. And so if a team accepts this new reality, the next question really is, what do we do Monday morning to start making a change? So you built better sites because you were frustrated with what's out there, the tools that we can find online. So can you tell us, what does better sites help teams see, and what actions does it unlock that they couldn't take before?
Sure. So Better Sites offers a lot of different functionality. The main one has to do with, well, how would an LLM interpret your site? What are
Hmm.
the fragments that an LLM may pull from your content? Is it citable? Is there anything worthy on that page for the LLM to even remember? So it looks at the content on your page. It looks at, um, is it citation ready? Is kind of one of the tools that I have. And that will looks at a lot of SEO, technical SEO type. It looks at a lot of technical SEO tactics and
Hmm.
features, and will give you that inclination. So, again, are your H1s proper? Is your schema proper? It will look at backlinks. It will look at the fragments. It will look at what kind of questions is your content answering, right? So
Hmm.
that's another thing. Like, we haven't really talked about the prompts, but your customers are asking, or leads are asking, it's asking the LLMs questions. So are you actually answering those questions? What types of questions are they asking, right? So there's a whole other, part of the tool that allows you to theoretically mimic who your prospect is. It takes your ICP, it takes your pain points that you solve, it takes your solutions, it takes the client's goals and motivations, and says, all right, well, if you're a prospect that has, that fits your ICP, what types of questions would they be asking? And then it'll give you that, and it'll evaluate, well, are you answering all of these questions that your prospect might be asking? So it really gives you, I guess it does a couple of different things. It evaluates the pages, the content that you have right now, and
Hmm.
how ready is it for to be picked up by the LLM. It gives you guidance on what type of content you should be creating. It gives you guidance on how to write your content. So it'll give you outlines. It will write content for you if you want it to, but it'll write content that is written with fragments in mind.
Hmm.
And it does the citation monitoring, because I do think it's important. I mean, I kind of was, poo-pooing it, through, earlier in the session, but citation monitoring is still important, because it
Yeah.
does give you an indication. It's just not the end all be all the way PageRank is. So it does citation monitoring, um, and it really gives whomever is responsible for your website's visibility within an AI. It gives them a lot of tools to kind of monitor, how each page is doing and how the content is doing.
And I think you mentioned something really important. That was one, and making sure that your content will answer questions. That's one. And then the second part, which you touched point earlier, was analyzing your sales calls, analyzing your customer calls, and trying to figure out what type of questions are being generated through these calls so that you can make sure to implement these on your website and making sure that they're being answered. I
Absolutely.
think that's a very powerful move that we can all do. I mean,
Hmm.
if we're
Yep.
recording the calls.
Very low bar
Yeah.
to do that.
And can you tell us what's a quick before and after example from someone using better sites?
So I think a good result that we've seen out of Better Sites is that the content that is being referenced within the LLM is becoming more consistent. Because if the content on your website is consistent and you're kind of reinforcing the same concepts, that again is going to give the LLM more confidence in the answer that it's giving, because you're being consistent with your message.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I've seen.
And in your opinion, who gets the most value out of using better sites? Agencies, in-house marketing teams, or consultants?
Um, Honestly, I think it's for all of them. It's really for whomever is responsible, whoever's neck is on the line for being visible within an LLM. Right now we have in the marketing departments or agencies, you have the SEO managers. I think that title is likely going to change and
Yeah.
become discoverability managers. Because I
Mhm.
think it is the same person that does SEO, that does
Mhm.
AEO or GEO or whatever EO you want to call it. We haven't quite come to a consensus on what that is. But I think moving forward, there's going to be a shift in the roles, and I think it's going to be called discoverability manager. So whomever is responsible for that, this is who that product is for. I will also add in anybody that is responsible for content strategy also has a very strong capability to ideate with the content strategist and what they should be talking about, what they should be writing about, what should they be saying. So a lot of the content strategists that I've been working with have really enjoyed or gotten a lot of benefit out of using Better.
And what's one insight that will consistently surprise users of better sites?
Say that again. A benefit of better sites
What's one insight that will consistently surprise users of better sites?
that their content is not citable, that they're actually not saying anything that has meaning beyond the page.
Now, done with the main part of the questions, we'll go through the lightning round, which are
Mhm.
four different questions, and I'll add a fifth one just because I like doing that fifth one to every guest.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing marketers should stop doing immediately?
Chasing AI visibility like its keywords,
What is one thing they should start doing this quarter?
writing content that survives the copy paste.
Belief about AI optimization you think is just flat out wrong.
If you win it today, it has no impact on tomorrow.
And I think that applies to not only this AI optimization. And last question, where should people follow you or slash find better sites?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn, writing a lot of sharing a lot of things that I'm learning. Everything changes. I feel like things are changing daily. So there's always something
100%.
new to learn. There's always a new twist. So yeah, it's a really exciting place. But I would say LinkedIn or follow the Better Sites page on LinkedIn.
Perfect. We'll make sure to add those on the show notes below. And last question, what's a book that you personally like? One, and then two, a book that you would recommend to first time founders.
Ooh, say these are probably not shocking. I'll give you two books that I just generally like and I think are really important, be it for leadership or I don't know, just being a good human. There are two. One is Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. That is a really great book and emphasizes leadership in service to the rest of the company. I think
Hmm.
that's really important. The other book I really like is called The Book of Joy. It is by the Dalai Lama and Bishop Desmond Tutu. Really, I don't know, certainly helped me through some tough parts of my life and just, really focusing on the good in the world. I think we all really need that right now because there's
100%.
a lot of chaos in the world. And then from a founder or business, leader standpoint, I am a big fan of Traction and the EOS system. If you're familiar with EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, I think being a founder, you get pulled in a lot of directions and it's very hard or very easy, I should say. It's very easy to get lost and distracted. And I feel like EOS has been a great way to stay grounded and stay focused and keep moving forward.
I love it. Thank you for your recommendations, and
You're
I'll make
welcome.
sure to add them to the books
Awesome.
that I recommend to everyone on my team and close friends and family.
Nice.
Um, I
What's your
appreciate
favorite
you
book?
sharing this. I'd want to say at the moment, the one that has done the most impact is Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. I haven't read that one, but I've heard it's pretty
I
good.
really, really recommend it. And it's not only easy to read, but if you actually follow the book, you'll actually start stacking good habits. And I have pushed it over to my wife, my parents, some other friends, because, every time or every year we're like, I want to go to the gym or I want to eat better or I want to make my bed when I wake up. But it's hard to keep track on everything that you want to do. So, Atomic Habits is just a very easy guide on how to stack habits and make them stick. And then the second one, that's the one I'm reading right now at the moment, and it's a Japanese. So it's about Adler, the philosopher.
Mhm.
And let me tell you what the name is, because I just bought it and got it a few weeks ago. If I remember right, it's The Courage to Be Disliked.
Mm, that seems like a good one.
And yeah, that's the one. It's The Courage to Be Disliked, and it's by these two Japanese authors. And the way they write it, it's a conversation between a young person and the philosopher. And the young person is just asking questions about life, about how he feels about himself and whatnot. And then the philosopher explains how he can change his mindset. So it's been pretty interesting book so far,
Yeah,
and I
sounds it.
think it's gonna be a book that I'll be reading again right after I'm done with it.
Awesome. I'll check it out.
So now let's summarize what we went through in operator terms. One, visibility isn't the goal; eligibility is. So you need to be the kind of source AI can reuse. Two, AEO isn't SEO on steroids. It's a different mindset and it's not linear. Three, fragile content breaks when intent shifts. So, write for reusable explanations and strong fragments. Four, structure matters. So, clarity, lists, tables make extraction easy. Five, for CMOs, this is the shift influence over attribution. So stop chasing fake precision and build decision grade signals. And six, offsite trust, PR, reviews, YouTube, third party mentions is rising just because AI doesn't trust your self claims. Anything that we missed?
No, I think you get the gist.
Awesome. So, Jessica, thank you again. This was insanely useful, not only for us, but anyone out there listening. Even if you're not in the marketing team, this will change
Thank
how
you.
you think about SEO and AIO and the future of AI. Now, you mentioned your LinkedIn, the Better Sites company page, and I'll make sure to add the Better Sites website as well. Is
Mhm.
there anywhere else that they can find you or that you want me to add in the show notes?
No, not right now.
Perfect. So we'll make sure to link everything in the show notes and make sure to share it once we post on LinkedIn and more. So thank you, Jessica, for coming on.
No, thank
And
you. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
I appreciate your time. And for everyone listening, if you're still treating AI optimization like a keyword checklist, you're going to lose ground quietly and quickly. So make your content eligible, not just visible, and give your leadership team a real influence scoreboard. I'm Yohan Mejia. This is the Enhance AI Partners podcast. See you in the next one. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.